A big part of what I want to build over time, aside from, the business, is more community spaces. I want to see people happy. I want to see people thriving. I want to see what I want to see. We need more spaces for community. We need more women in government.
Yeah.
I would love to see, this is a very side note, we need to see more, because not in a bad way, but women will create things that they need for nurturing for children, those spaces. We don't have enough of that. We don't have enough community spaces because we are so concerned with growth, export, the economy. It's important, but we need
But it is very
community need
masculine
things.
energy.
Yeah, a lot of masculine energy, and we love the masculine energy. But we also
balance.
we need balance, because if you can't build communities, you can't build a society.
Hey guys, welcome. It's another episode of the StormCast. Thank you for joining me. My name is Folu Storms, and this is a series that I put together because I like having interesting conversations with people. There are so many people that I find interesting or I'm curious about, and today's guest is no exception. Today I do have a guest. Welcome to Akudo. How are you doing, Akudo?
Hi everyone. I'm really, really well. I'm a little under the weather, but we're pushing through.
Thank you for
2026. We're pushing.
Push.
We're pushing.
We move. 2026. We move.
Cold and all.
Okay, first I need to say your surname properly. Ihe Akanwa.
So I've got Ihenacho because I'm married. I got married there. Yeah. Ihenacho. Yes. And my maiden is Ihakamwa. But I still go. I do a bit of switching, which my husband's always like, I love my name, and it took so long for everyone to get to learn it. So I'm like, I need to keep doing both. Yeah.
Ihenacho. You have married her off. Let's be focused. Akudo is the founder of Shakudo, which is a phenomenal fashion brand that does shoes specifically, as well as the founder of the Gather House, which is a lovely community building space. And I really wanted to have a conversation with you around business and identity.
Yep.
Identity, because it is the perspective from which I tend to view the world, and which a lot of my questions and even my career choices have sort of come from. I feel like identity in different ways, whether it is the title of being Nigerian or being African or being a daughter, titles tend to mean quite a lot in identity.
Yeah.
But especially for the way that you do business, the Shakudo brand is one that deals a lot with specifically Ashoke, Akwete, a lot of African fabrics. And I'm curious, why go into that space at all?
Yeah, thank you. Shakudo is, some may or may not know, we're currently on pause. We actually paused last year, January. And it was so hard to do that because, as you said, it was such a big part of my identity. But with doing business, you do a lot of things really great. There's a lot of challenges. And this business, we made a lot of mistakes, wonderful mistakes because we've learned from them, but a lot of mistakes. So that's something that I said, let me pull the brakes. I need to stop. We need to start afresh and get things right, do things right and build it from the base up again. But it was, and it is a business that hopefully we can relaunch again soon. We're planning, it's in the works. But with Shakudo, a lot of it I did want to tie to our heritage in different ways. My tribe, my dad is from the Igbo culture, but I love the fact that Nigeria is made up of so many different tribal groups, ethnic groups, and I thought it was really important to show the world, the differences between all of these different groups and the beautiful similarities as well. And I know some say, oh, but it's just some shoes. How are you going to do it through shoes? But I think growing up for me, people always knew Nigeria as a place, because I grew up in Australia. People always thought, oh, Nigeria, it's just corrupt and weird and crazy, dog eat dog. That was the perception everyone had overseas. And no matter how many, and it's not like that, it's not just like that. I mean, it is a bit like that. But it's not the be-all and end-all of Nigeria. So when I moved here, I was doing fashion on the side and I wanted to bring it to life again. I said, you know what? I want to show a little bit more about our identity through fashion. It's a soft entry point. Everyone wears shoes, and I thought it's a great way to show our culture in different ways through our fabrics, through, the woodworking skills, through our heels. So I loved Ashoke because one big thing for me is you could choose the colors, you could choose the patterns. It's a big part of Yoruba culture. It's been around for centuries, and a lot of people didn't know that. Even in Nigeria, we don't know that this fabric has been a part of our history for so long. Just like silk to the Chinese, and I thought, how can we not own this as much? We do for families. I know a lot of families and different celebrations, but I think when you go deeper, really owning that to the world and saying, this is ours, this is something we've passed down from generation to generation. So I wanted to show that. So when people would buy the shoes, they'd first say, oh, they're really pretty. Look at all those colors. Then they'd say, oh, I like the style of the shoe. Then when they receive the shoe, they get that information. Oh, this is Ashoke fabric. This has a history. We'd put a whole write-up about what this fabric is, how it's made, the sustainability of the fabric, the generational learning of the fabric. So it was a great way to inform and educate people around the world, because we did sell mostly around the world and locally. So a lot of Nigerians even would get the shoe and they're like, no, this is not Ashoke, because we play around with colors and the linear count as well. There's that whole linear count. So we play around. People are like, no, you can't do yellow and pink and white. So 5 years ago, a lot of people weren't really playing around with Ashoke like that. And, they were using very traditional standard colors, understandably. Yeah. So we just wanted to push the boundary a little bit. So then we play with Akwete as well. So we're moving into Akwete, Adire. We did a bit of work with Adire. So we do intend, when we relaunch the brand again, to dive a bit more into identity-based fabrics, to tell those stories of our generation, and before us. Yeah.
No, I love how you've woven stories so clearly into the brand. I remember, do you know what my first experience of Akudo was? It was seeing...
this is day one.
I've done my
day
best.
Day one, gal.
We'll give you guys the background gist. But I think Eku wore your shoes for something.
Yes.
And I remember being like, yo, those are really cool. Because I'm somebody who I because of school and spending a lot of time between the UK and Nigeria, London is also home for me, right? Yeah. But Lagos is also home. Yeah. And like you said, you come across people who are like, oh, you're Nigerian. Oh, I don't know. Oh, you're a bit different, aren't you? I doubt... every episode I say something, but I'm like, how many do you know? Yeah. And it's about the stories that are told about us and who's telling the stories. And a good reason why a number of stories gained prominence over our stories years ago, I think is also a technology issue, is the advent of the internet. Until the lion learns to write, it's the hunter that'll be telling the story. Absolutely. You understand? So I learned very quickly to wear my identity. It was the choice of even going natural. And I was like, okay, the aesthetic of it, that it was a very unpopular time to go natural, like 15 years ago. They were just like, what's the problem? You don't want to fix it. You don't want to fix. Well, you're not gonna fix. I said, madam, don't let her go outside like that too.
I had that too in Australia, funnily enough, because I've straightened it for now. Everyone did a little straightening, but my hair's actually afro. It's curly. Yes. It's a looser curl, but it's curly. My auntie would always say, she's like, it's a bit rough. Do you want to just go in? And I walk into the salon and I'm like, And then now it's weird because everyone's like, oh, you should leave it. It's so cute, natural. So I'm like, we were trying. Yes. We were ahead.
We were trying to figure it out. So I would always wear Ashoke, and as a Yoruba girl, my dad is Yoruba, right? My mom is from Northern Cross River. That was a thing, and yes, depending on the type of Ashoke you wear, I know that people from Ibadan tend to wear this white and brown combination. Is Sonyo. I think I'm probably saying it's wrong. Somebody's going to judge me, but there's things like that.
Try. Yeah.
So seeing that translated in footwear, I hadn't seen it translated quite the way you had done it. The other brand that I know that did things like that, which I got into as well, was Ethnic African. Yes, Tunde, exactly. By Tunde,
we were there together. We were using the same shoemaker for a while. Funny story.
Yes,
but we were. He's brilliant. He's such a brilliant shoemaker, and he's very inclusive and very much about, let's tell this story. How do we do that? Because he was doing beautiful sneakers and bags, and he still does.
Yes.
And he was a great support to me when I was starting out, which you don't always see. So that was very encouraging. But we think, how do we show the world what we have? And I think now a lot of designers they were doing it. They were really trying. We had a really lovely leg up at a time because of the Black Lives Matter movement. A lot of people also like, oh, she's Australian. Oh, she's Nigerian. I've not really seen that combination. It's very common. It's very common.
I think you're also the only like Australian Nigerian.
Yeah. Don't worry. We're very common. When you go to Australia, you'll see us ding, 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 floating around.
I love Nigerians.
Our fathers like to do their thing, travel the world as far as Australia.
Go forth and multiply seriously.
Very seriously, extremely seriously. So I was feeling special for a while. It didn't last for too long, but it was a thing that I think a lot of people when we were selling globally, they were like, "What is this? Like, I don't quite understand, and I want to get to know it better." And that really allowed us to tell that story. And I think a lot of other designers who had already paved the way, we were also helping bring through some new opportunities for people to be like, yes, this is our fabric. Yeah. We're going to stand on this business and just share it to the world. And now you just see a lot of these bigger brands who are trying to replicate those, techniques. We have also countries, which I don't want to mention, that are really copying that beautiful artistry and we're importing it in. So
very interesting. Not too long ago, I had the pleasure of hosting the launch by the Minister for Trade Investment, Dr. Duole. She was launching the intellectual property strategy for Nigeria. And part of something that we don't have in our laws, because you see, when we talk about our fabrics and then people replicating it and being able to say that this is Ashoke has geographical indication. Yeah. It is from a particular place in the world. It is from certain places in Nigeria. Yeah. And unfortunately, our trademark laws had not allowed us to trademark. Our design laws had not allowed us to say, this is from this particular area. To call it this, it needs to have this. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's something that currently the Nigerian government is working on, because we're in an era where we are so exposed to the world, where our culture is becoming very mainstream. Yeah. And one of my concerns, part of why I also straddle that intersection between law and entertainment, is that if we don't find a way to harness the economic value of it, we're going to lose to other people.
Absolutely. I actually wasn't aware of that. That's really interesting. It's really, really important. It's not just about, unfortunately, claiming and saying this is ours. We have to take
champagne.
Yeah.
You can't call something champagne.
And they clicked onto that, and then they're like, we need to do this. We need to take formalized ownership of this. You have to stand on and say, this is ours. This is something we have been doing for generations, for centuries. This is our identity. This is who we are. Because we are in a world now. Everything's globalized. You can't always trace the source, and people are not willing to also, pay homage to where they're supposed to. We are getting better at it, definitely, but also it can be very tricky. We found that it can be very, very tricky. So I'm glad to hear that that's happening. It's amazing.
It's a work in progress. So I guess the other question I want to ask you now is, what have you found have been some of the highlights of being a business owner who is very focused on ethical and sustainable business? What have been the highlights of that, and what have been the pitfalls that you found whilst trying to stay ethical? You're trying to stay sustainable. You're trying to make sure that you are doing business in a way that is true to all the parts of yourself and who you are.
To be honest with you, so with Shakudo and with also Gather House, it's quite similar in that way, because I think a big part of when I moved to Nigeria, I really wanted to make sure that I could do as many things as possible on ground. So with Shakudo, just for those who don't know, a lot of our sourcing techniques, a lot of where we get our fabrics, obviously we make our ashoke. We have a team of weavers we work with. And that was to keep that on ground, to make sure that we didn't have to rely too much on importation of other fabrics, because it's such a durable, strong, fantastic fabric that you can clean and keep cleaning and keep cleaning. There's a whole thing. So that was one. 2, leather, we were using local leftover leather. We weren't importing at the time, because we wanted to say, let's support the leather in Mushin. I would have days where I would literally just be in Mushin, trawling those markets, looking for the best leather I could. That was coming from the north. That was offcuts from other countries that were just sending it back here. Then with the heels, we started working with heels in the market that were left over. Some of them were the craziest heels you've seen from the 1980s. They had been plucked off other shoes, whatever. But then we realized that we couldn't do that long term. It wasn't sustainable. Okay. So we needed to make our own heels. So that's why we actually moved into making wooden heels. So we worked with a lot of wonderful carpenters at the time that would make our heels for us. That's another story. So everything that also didn't allow us to be sustainable for long enough. So that's another story. But same with Gather. We work with Gather actually spans back 4 years ago, 5 years ago now. We're 22. So we actually we started working with local brands and wanting to look at what women are doing locally, how they're making locally, what's their packaging. And a lot of the prerequisites for joining the Gather market, because it was a market day back then, was you had to have your packaging done locally, you had to be producing 80% locally, it had to be a sustainable practice and eco-friendly. We weren't allowing single-use plastics and things like this, just to protect the environment a lot more. So there's both sides. I've been trying to do that. It's not always easy. With Akudo, very difficult at a time, because when we grew, we started getting a lot more orders. So it was easier when it was the direct to consumer one. You order from me, I make your shoes, I send it out. We were very lucky to get an order of over 400 units, 500 units to a European retailer. This order made us and also broke us. It really helped to lift us and also damage the company, which I won't go into. But this was a very exciting time. It was something where I was like, oh, how do I now do all of this production locally? How do I keep it local and keep it sustainable, keep that ethical side of, working with our, local shoemakers? Yeah. It became very difficult for me. I didn't get the support I needed on ground here in Nigeria, unfortunately. I was crying out for help, and we did finally get help from a wonderful, wonderful partner, Afrikorea at the time, Mulaye, who has been so good to us, and we are really owing them in so many ways. But we didn't get the support we needed, and before that, and so we had to look at producing offshore, because I tried working in South Africa, I tried working in Ethiopia, I tried doing on ground. I went to Abia State to try to see if I could produce this larger quantity. It wasn't happening. So we just weren't set up on ground for this large quantity order, and they weren't slippers and sandals. They were high heels, very complex styles that we had developed over a few years. So I realized, I was like, man, this story of wanting to do everything on ground from start to finish, keeping a sustainable model, it's just not working for me as a new business right now.
And what was that? Was it because of a lack of infrastructure?
Yeah, so we didn't have the machinery that we needed in our workshop to do this. We were struggling with funds. I was unable to import. I went to Portugal. I was trying to talk to the Chinese for machine. It was very difficult for me to secure the funds I needed to get that. 1, 2, there's only so many heels you can make in a certain period of time. So the order was needed very quickly. We couldn't produce all these heels on ground. The consistency, as we all know, with artisan craftsmanship, as beautiful as it is, it's inconsistent. Yes. And a lot of these retailers do not understand. They're like, no, why is this looking different? Why is that looking different?
Yes.
You can't, unfortunately, no matter how much you tell that story, they want it to look consistent for their consumer. So we were unable to promise that to that retailer. So we had to look at, okay, what can we keep on ground? What are some elements that we know are consistent? Okay, I know that I can rely on this fabric. We can do it in bulk. I can keep that consistent. And we had to find a family-owned atelier in Portugal that were very much about craftsmanship. They weren't mass production. I didn't want that. They weren't bulk. They were very small. There was a family of 10. But they were able to whip out. They had the infrastructure to do what we couldn't. So we would send all of our fabric over to them. I would even get my artisans to tassel, bead everything. We send it to them to couple everything. They would even have to do the heels for us at the time. They had to make the heels. So what I could say was at least a strong part of our identity, the fabric was being done here. We were able to ship that. But again, that was costing us a lot of money. So those were the pitfalls. But I think in terms of the positives behind that, I think for us, we really wanted to say that we were keeping a certain element on ground. We were still working with families that we had started working with years ago to create these fabrics for us. We still actually, until we paused, we still were using local leather, like leftover leather for our direct-to-consumer orders. But for our if we got bigger orders, we had to send them to the factory to produce that for us for that consistency model. So it was really tough. I had to really question what I was doing and be like, okay, yes, I want to keep this on ground, but is it going to, sink the business? Because I can't do it realistically right now. Is it something I have to kind of produce outside, get a bit of money, come back and reinvest into my infrastructure? I had to make that hard decision because I wasn't getting that support. So that's also why we took a pause and we said, we are shifting a bit from our identity. How do we now go back to where we were? Yeah, it's tough. It's really, really tough. And I think even working at Gather House now with a lot of these wonderful women in business, a lot of them say to us, Akudo, like, we want to be more eco-friendly. We want to do paper packaging. We want to do glass jars, but it's just so expensive. It's challenging. We can't find it on ground. We're having to import from China, so a lot of them are using these plastic items that are, going into landfill, going onto the streets. So I get it. As a business owner, when you're starting, you're trying your best to, find things that work, but sometimes it can be expensive. A lot of that research and development that goes into looking for eco-friendly and sustainable ways of production is very expensive for a new business. But I think if there's a bit more support around that locally, that would be great. Yes. However, we also have to recognize that as Africans, we are very sustainable in a lot of our practices. I think it's a big buzzword right now. We are using a lot of things that we shouldn't be in production, but if you go back and follow our history and what we've been doing and how we produce, we do take a lot of waste products. We look at how can we flip what we have and make it into something beautiful. We have been doing that already. So I think if we can hone back into that, try to avoid using a lot of these imported plastics that are coming in from all these different countries and see what we can use on ground as much as possible. Coconuts, raffia, what do you call this beautiful waste plant in the, what's this one?
The mangrove, the stuff that you get in the water, right? Yes, that you can weave into like different almost sort of waffle things. I never remember as well, but I know what you're talking about because for Artex Lagos, they use that to make the water hyacinth. Yes.
All these things, we have amazing things on ground. So it's just how do we add value and how do we, get that support to keep adding value as well.
So interesting. Speaking of adding value, I also wonder, what does the African label or the Nigerian label, how does that translate for you globally? What do you feel is the response, or what is the response from consumers? What is the appetite for things that are labeled African or Nigerian? Or conversely, do you feel that is a box that has its own limitations?
It's such a great question. But like that was one of the challenges I think for me that I faced with Akudo. That is one of the things as well with Gather House that myself and my COO, my business partner Maxine, we've tried to really be very intentional about how we are telling our story to locally and to the rest of the world. I think, and kudos to especially the US at the time and other spaces we were in. We were really, in the beginning, it was a bit of trepidation. When I was saying more the trepidation was, I did hear it from retailers with Akudo. A lot of them were saying that they feared a bit of risk working with African brands because they knew the nature of production. They knew that we didn't have the setup, the mechanisms to be able to produce a larger order. A lot of them said when they did work with some designers beforehand, before placing orders with us, they didn't always get their orders on time. The deliveries were half, they were inconsistent. A lot of things had to be returned. So there was a little bit of nervousness around it. And I think also we have to remember we're also quite new in terms of being able to supply, to other countries in terms of through fashion. A lot of them are very comfortable ordering from Asia, from Australia, from Europe. But ordering in bulk from Africa, the logistics, the landscape wasn't always super supportive. I know there was AGOA, which is no longer there, but so the landscape wasn't super supportive for African brands to be able to deliver out of Africa to other countries. And that's something we also, need to look into, especially for smaller businesses. So there was a lot of the worry, but there was also a shift. There was this really interesting shift when Black Lives Matter. There was a lot of that going on, and initiatives like the 15% pledge, which was trying to get a lot more Black brands onto the shelves in the USA, which was amazing. So that also helped us a lot. I won't lie and say that, it was just off the skin of our backs. We sort of came in at a really beautiful time, and we were very lucky. We even got a little mention from, Beyonce's website at the time. There was a lot of people trying to lift up, Black owned, and for us this was an amazing period. So we were well received as well by these retailers who thought, you know what, we're a bit nervous, but we're going to give it a shot. We're going to see how it goes. And this was really wonderful for us. But yeah, I think, sorry, the second half of that question, remind me again.
It was whether there was appetite, whether there was resistance to it, and also consumers. Were they really searching for it? That was pretty much it.
Yeah.
Sort of covered.
There was a really big appetite for us in the USA and parts of Europe at the time. We were getting some really interesting orders, and people just really interested in our story. And we always say our story for us was everything. And I think because of that movement that was going on, that real support that was being given out to Black-owned brands, people wanted to just explore more. They were like, oh, we know all these other brands. We've been buying from these other brands. We want to see what else is out there. It's almost like going on Spotify and exploring, new indie music, what's going on. So there was a bit of that for us in terms of the fashion side. With Gather House in itself, for us, we've been really particular, as I said, about creating this narrative that, about excellence. We don't want to, so how do I say? So we were very big on saying, look, we want to help contribute to that made in Africa narrative in a positive way. That's what we were doing at Shakudo with the footwear. We wanted to contribute to that made in Africa narrative because people would see them, they're like, wait, are these coming, from Africa? Are these produced in Africa? Is this fabric from Africa? What's going on? This is amazing, And it was so shocking to me that people were receiving it in that way because I think there's that that idea of, okay, everything's artisan made, and we also have a thing, even locally, where we kind of put things out there that shouldn't probably be put out there yet. They're not ready. They're not at their best. And the quality of that, it really has, it really impacts other brands, other designers, other, people in that sort of creative space, because people are like, oh, I've seen things made there. They're not to the best, they're not, the stitching is off. This is falling apart. And we never wanted to be that with our footwear. We were at a point, definitely. We did a lot of experimentation, but we kind of were sliding into that. And I was like, no, we need to rein it back a little bit. So even at, as I said, with Gather House, same thing. We're trying our best to really change that narrative and say the brands that we put on our shelves are excellent, beautifully made, well made.
When you say something is African or Nigerian, there's the fear that, is it done properly? Has it got to this level? My experience with not just Shakudo, but actually Gather, that technically, from the Reclaim era.
Days, yes. Oh my God.
I'll tell you guys a funny story about one of my first interactions with Akudo through COVID, actually. And someone sent me a message, I don't even know how Akudo got my number. I don't know where she got it from. Send a message, or we have this little package we want to send to you. And you guys sent, I think there was a bit of sage in there. There were all these lovely little things with a lovely little quote as well. Like a little framed quote.
Yes.
And
my God, I forgot about those.
Such a simple thing, but it was right up my alley. I was like,
that.
yeah.
Do you know I was doing it out of my house?
You did a great job.
Yeah, in my little bedroom.
You did a great job, and just saying, we're sort of testing this out. We have this little community.
Yeah.
And because I'm a storyteller, I'm someone who's you can sell me on stories.
Yeah.
Like, okay, cool. And then, but it wasn't just the story. It was that when I unfolded this little simple but well put together package, everything was done thoughtfully and done well.
Yeah.
So what that has led to is you creating a brand. You've created brand trust.
Yeah.
In the consumer, and I became a loyal consumer as a result. So that when I then saw, also through COVID, that you were retailing at the time period cups.
Yes,
guys. Everyone who knows me knows I'm a big period cup advocate.
Yes.
My first period cup that I tried was a Reclaim period cup. Like Akudo was responsible for that.
As they must think, Reclaim is one of
the multiple businesses.
I'm a little bit nuts.
Which way, Akudo put this whole package there and was like, okay, we know someone that does this. We have this. So just trusting that you'd already put together this thing. I just had brand trust. I was like, all right, cool. There was all this explanation. It's like, okay, this is what the person said. This is how it goes. And so that made me feel like, all right. So when I then even heard of Gather House, again, it's this identity. It was a place where I felt like, okay, my types of people will be there. Yeah. My types of people who are big on African excellence, who are big on sustainability, who believe that the way that we do things organically here is good, but it can do with certain levels of refinement, of attention to detail. And I wonder, as we go talking about Gather and that community, what do you feel do you even think, and this is sort of a holistic question because it was bugging in my brain when you were talking about the large orders, etc. I wonder, do you think business-wise it is possible for us, and when I say us, I mean Nigerians, as a people, to maybe begin to focus less on mass and instead really curate the experience of, okay, we can do batches of 100. This is where we're at. Yeah. And this is the time scale over which it will come out. Yeah. Because that allows us to maintain a certain level of authenticity, but still maintain that craftsmanship. And then I'll go on to ask about working with craftsmen in Nigeria and how you also weave their stories into the things that you do, because each one teach one feeds one. Like it's a whole ecosystem. So I'm very curious about that.
I think for me, even just hearing you say that is so beautiful. And it's something I try to, without even thinking about it in that way, it's something I try to teach a lot of the brands we work with at Gather House about that continuity with customers and that loyalty and that, familiarity with customer. I love that you have said, from the beginning, because a lot of people don't know, I've had multiple businesses, and my current business partner, Maxine at Gather House, would always say to me, Akudo, enough, it's too many. But, I get so excited. I love seeing things grow. I love building community. People don't know, back, community development is my actual expertise.
And you have a background in public health.
So I work with women.
The healer and the carer in the boardroom.
It's really in my DNA, and my mother's a nurse. My father's worked in Australia, a Nigerian community development, street beautification manager. Like, he did some wonderful things. Teacher, I have that in my blood. I love community. I love seeing people happy. I love seeing people, receive things and feel joy, get together and feel joy. I think when I was starting a lot of these businesses and testing the market, and Folu's been amazing, and you have really stuck with us through all of our changes and metamorphoses as well. But it's very true. A lot of our customers that started with us from the very beginning have kind of followed with us along the journey, and I see them pop up at different stages. Hey, it's me. Remember me? I bought some soaps from you in 2021, or I see someone wearing our shoes from like when we started 2018. And then they're now at Gather House having a coffee with us as well, buying shoes at Gather House. It's very full circle. It's very emotional for me. I find it so special. And I think one thing I say to a lot of the brands we work with here is create that familiarity, create that friendship, create that love for your community, for your customer. Show them that you want to go above and beyond for them. I think it's, we don't do enough of it here. When I did move to Nigeria, I noticed that connection with customer, that connection with client, building that rapport wasn't so strong. There was this desire to create, sell, and thank you for your patronage and take care. When I would buy from brands or buy from, I didn't feel that appreciation. I didn't feel that support.
That's so interesting, because I feel almost like that's a divergence from how people in the market operates.
Yeah.
We are rainbow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
How is the children?
Absolutely.
Now, this continuation of
yes.
you ask, and to be fair,
Yes.
I'm one of the bad people. I'm one of the people who's just like, guys, let's be good.
Racing it along.
When you call me, I'm like, what's the thing? So there's no, you cannot agree, no go.
Yeah.
My brain doesn't compute in that way. I just kind of go straight to the thing.
You need to get what's going.
But Nigerians, especially Yoruba people again, are very much,
it's very familiar, like in the market. You're right. It's very much, because when I would go to Mushin, it's very true. When I would shop, when I was doing my thing in Aria Market in Abia State, like it was like they would see me 1, 2, 3 times. I would be welcomed back as family. I didn't feel this when it was like an online.
Yes.
You know, we've moved away from, because the market moments, like our traditional way of, you know, trading and selling is, it's family. You know, someone's familiar.
Yeah.
You know, you're going back to see them again. Yeah, how body, how family, how did it? But excuse me, I didn't feel when I was doing like a lot of these purchases online.
Yeah,
I didn't feel the rapport, the customer continuation, the support just wasn't there. It was like, hi, yes, no, okay, maybe it's 5,000. Sorry, but you'll pay for this. You know, you're going to pay for this. You'll do. You know, it was a bit cutthroat, and I was like, oh,
you know the problem. Nigerians are frustrated.
We are, yeah, for sure.
People don't have lights in their house.
You know, for sure.
So they're like,
and
please, what do you want?
Rightfully so. I mean, it's so hard running a business generally. Running a business in Nigeria is extraordinarily difficult. Being an entrepreneur anywhere else in the world is tough. Being an entrepreneur here is extremely tough. A lot of the brands I work with 4 years in are still doing it on their own. So people are burnt out, people are tired, but they're trying to just keep going. But I said to them, you have to try to remember that your customer, you know, if you can get that customer to keep coming back and keep supporting you, it will really propel your business. You'll have this base of customers who are there with you throughout, thick and thin, who keep coming back, who love you, and just invest that little bit of extra, or if you can't, find a way to, you know, order replies, whatever you can do to make them feel warm. So I think even now, like with the businesses I was running before Gather House, the same thing. It was this thing around, you know, how do we get better at treating that customer with love and respect? I'd have to make shoes, and it's not everyone that can do this, but I had to remake shoes from scratch, sometimes 2 or 3 times for a customer, because they were so disappointed. I just couldn't let them go with that disappointment. I couldn't. And it's so funny that one of those customers even came back, wanted to invest her time for free in the brand to help us rebuild that brand again, because she's like, no, I love you guys too much. Because you never know where that interaction might take you. But I think for us, the intention behind each of the brands is so important. We do need to try our best to, you know, add a little bit more value wherever possible. Make sure that we are not trying to do too much. And I think I have to really say this from personal experience, you know, because it was great for us to get that international love and recognition and major orders, but it also sunk the business as well. When we were talking about Akudo, it really sunk the business because we were not able to keep performing at that level. And now we sort of came back to the drawing board and said, how can we come back to our community here? How can we work with our wonderful people on ground and our family who were with us from day one? How do we build up from there? And a lot of brands in Nigeria doing that really beautifully right now, like Dye Lab and a few others. They're doing extraordinary jobs at really honing in on that community. And I think we have to look at, what about our local market? What about the wider African market? What are we missing here that everywhere else already has around the world? How do we serve our own community first before going out? The same thing applies where we are really so intentional about our community here. How can we show these beautiful things that we have on ground, these beautiful brands, this beautiful coffee, this beautiful tea, this amazing wine, this ogogoro? How do we show what we have, and then also really tell our community that you're worth it? You know, you're worth this place. You are worth this investment. You are worth all of these wonderful things. We need to remember that if our community doesn't feel pride in the community, a lot of people are wanting to go elsewhere and do, to support external or to move externally. We need to really support what we have on ground. And I think a lot of these brands and private owned businesses are doing that a bit better now.
If you had to sort of offer like perspective on being on the journey of building a brand, on the journey of building a brand as a woman, on the journey of building a brand as a multi-heritage woman, but also as an African woman, what would the perspective be?
Oh, my God. How much time do we have? Because let me tell you, I've spent so much time in deep reflection on this, and there's a lot I can say. It's very hard to wrap it up. I think perspective-wise, I would say a few different things is trying to not tie the business too much to your personal self. Identity, like we said, is important, yes, but I'm talking more like your personal identity. I think as a woman, in business, we tend to baby our businesses, our products, which is a beautiful thing, but it can also hinder as well. Because, a lot they say, and this is very general, generalized statement and sweeping statement, but men are a little bit more cutthroat with their businesses where they're like, yep, I've built this, I'm selling it off. I know, pragmatic. Women can be a little bit more about that caring side, that compassion side of it, that, oh, this is mine, I don't want to let it go. I love seeing, try not to be too tied to the business, because remember, it is something that you are putting out into the world. You want to see how it goes. You have to also be willing to let it go if you need to. That's one. Two, it's been very tough as a woman in business, but also a woman of color in business, a woman that is not, because I grew up in Australia, a lot of my systems and everything are in Australia. I moved to Nigeria, although I am half Nigerian and I identify as Nigerian very strongly. I haven't been able to reap all of the certain things of, being in Nigeria because of the way the systems are also set up. So financially, we've really, building businesses, it's been a big struggle financially. A lot of people don't realize all of my businesses have been bootstrapped. I saved a bit of money from my job in Australia. I came over and I started from there. We've been very lucky with a lot of opportunities to travel here and trade shows have been paid for by, organizations, which have been a blessing. So we're not going to say that we didn't get help there, but trying to raise funds has been very tough. And we have put Akudo is in debt. It was in a lot of debt. I'm very transparent about that. There's nothing to hide because, it's like life. You don't get multiple chances. You kind of get that one shot to give it a go, and you learn from that. And with our other businesses, you learn from that. But never be afraid to say, God, I'm really struggling right now. I need to put a little bit of a pause. I need to reassess. I need to figure this out because, myself in that bit, I was sinking. I was really struggling, mentally, emotionally. There was so much pressure financially and trying to dig myself out of this. And thank God I was so scared and not realizing that so many people are in the same boat, struggling financially, struggling with all of these different things. I just wanted to be very transparent with a lot of the brands I work with now at Gather House and say, it's okay, you will fall. Just keep trying, learn, get back up, try again. So that's a really big one. I think also one thing I think we underestimate, especially in Nigeria, I've noticed is partnerships. We get a little bit worried about competition. And there's so many people in Nigeria. I mean, how many are living in Lagos? How many are living in Nigeria and the rest of Africa? Do not underestimate the potential behind partnerships and collaborations. And while working in Australia in community development, collaborations and partnerships were the backbone of everything we did. If you didn't partner with others and other entities, businesses, you couldn't get very far. So as a small business, as a business owner, try to partner, collaborate, and see what you can get and what the other brand can get, work in tandem and help lift each other together because their audience is your audience. And this is how, the Gather House grew so quickly because from Gather Market, we had 10 brands. That's 10 audiences together. From there, we have 750 women in our community because of that word of mouth. And then we now have 143 brands stocked at the Gather House, and all of those communities come in. That brand's community come in and shop, but they now explore and discover another brand, and so, vice versa. So let's not underestimate. We can't always work in silos. How do we work together to build? And that's also, I would say, even for Nigeria, the rest of Nigeria, not just small business. How do we work together and collaborate, strengthen weakness, and build each other up as well?
I love that. That's beautiful.
So important, and I really have seen the benefit of that, and just letting go and letting a bit of that control go and be like, you know what, I'm an amazing fragrance brand. Can I partner with a beautiful, I don't know, bag brand or a flower company? How can we do workshops? How can we build our community together? Yeah, it's we need more of that, I think.
So moving forward now, if we strip away the titles, whether it's the shoes, the community, the founder, all of that, and you, the person who has navigated so many of these different storms and different challenges in your life, who's the woman that remains, and what is the next step for you? What is the journey that you're on?
Yeah, I love that. Wow. Nigeria has been very good to me. I was having this conversation with my husband the other day. We go through a lot. Nigerians go through a lot. Africans go through a lot. The world is going through a lot right now. But when I moved to Nigeria, it's very easy to look for and find the negatives. Very easy. Our brains are hardwired to find negatives because of survival, But Nigeria has given me so much, and the community I've built here and been very blessed to grow, and has been amazing. I think because I've been in such build mode when I moved to Nigeria, lots of hustling, lots of building, points where I didn't want to tell family that I had no money. I was selling my phones. I was doing, very funny things to be able to survive.
Yeah, proper entrepreneur.
Yeah, I mean, and at the end of the day, I can't dismiss my privilege. I could always say, God, Mum, can I get some family to help me? I need to come back home. I'm struggling. But I just couldn't do it. I couldn't allow myself to do it. So a lot of the building of the business has become so much of who I am. It's been very hard to pull myself away from my businesses, because I've been trying my best to survive and really prove a point that I'm doing this, I'm going to do this, and I will make it happen. And a lot of that, and my husband always says, calm down, like just relax. Sometimes I'm working 7 days a week. You know how it is, 7 days a week around the clock, trying to find that time to be like, who am I again? Who is me? What do I want to do? Going back to things I love, as a child, as a teenager, what do I love doing? Doing things with my hands. So trying to strip the businesses away was something I started doing last year, and I'm trying to do a lot more of that for 2026. Living a bit more with ease. Who is Akudo? What do I love aside from building this and community and, trying to create. It has been tough to strip that back. I did go through a series of lots of burnout. A lot of people don't know because they see me very talky, jovial. So I had a lot of times where I was very low, very, very I just couldn't find joy in things anymore. I was really struggling. And I had to really pull myself out by saying, what do I love? What things do I do?
What nourishes you?
What nourishes me? Yeah, because I will say to so many people around me, but I just wasn't doing it for myself. I've gotten a lot better at doing that. Certain days are just for me. I'll do ceramics now. I'm just on my own. I started engaging people. I was like, come and join me at ceramics. And Maxine, my business partner, was like, stop. You're doing that thing again. Go and do it by yourself. And I love her for that. And, so stripping everything back, what I do want, I'm really looking forward to building a family, my own family with my husband this year. I can't wait. To have some little kiddies of my own, put them straight to work. I'm joking. Get them work, get them making shoes.
Nigerian. The build family for go. I have
Start
business
stitching.
for you.
Start stitching that shit. No. So I can't wait for that. I'm a big lover of outdoors. I love camping. I love hiking. I can sleep in a tent. A lot of people, I'll sleep on that ground. A lot of people laugh at me for that, but I love getting out to nature, talking to trees, spending time with flowers. I'm a bit of a nature hippie. So doing a lot more of that this year.
Good.
I want to be outside. I want to be making, although I am working on a few little things in the background. Gather House for me is work, yes, but it is a big part of my heart because again, I love walking in there. I love seeing people have something to do. I love seeing people making a new friend, bringing their daughter, bringing their son for a little cup of coffee or hot chocolate, spending time with their mum, brands meeting each other, entrepreneurs meeting each other, really opening up space to talk, to connect. That has been, I sometimes will be teary upstairs. I'm just like, whoa, this is so special. Beyond all of the fluff and all the prettiness of Gather, it's the community that I get so happy about. Yeah. And why I keep coming back to Nigeria is I want to see more spaces for community. I want to see more sidewalks. I want to see more parks. I want to see more places where, mums can change their children, changing rooms, baby change rooms, mothers connecting, fathers connecting groups. So a big part of what I want to build over time, aside from, the business, is more community spaces. I want to see people happy. I want to see people thriving. I want to see what I want to see, and I want to be able to walk around Nigeria and push my pram or something outside. I feel like right now I can't even walk out in my street and push my pram. Yeah. It's hectic. It's crazy. So we need more spaces for community. We need more women in government. Yeah. I would love to see, this very side note, we need to see more, because not in a bad way, but women will create things that they need for nurturing for children, those spaces. We don't have enough of that. We don't have enough community spaces because we are so concerned with growth, export, the economy. It's important, but we need
it is very masculine energy.
Yeah, a lot of masculine energy, and we love the masculine energy, but we also balance. We need balance, because if you can't build communities, you can't build a society. Where we're going to be falling, and the foundations are not going to be strong. Okay. So that's what I want to be doing a bit more outside of.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Listen, you answered so many of my questions, and as usual with most of my guests, I can just keep.
We can all go on tangents,
but it's okay. Let's do it. Akudo, thank you so much.
Thank you
for taking the time, for coming out to join me. Even though you're feeling a bit under the weather, I really appreciate it.
Good luck with the editing. So much coughing, and sneezing. So
it's okay. It's giving texture. It's giving texture.
Realness, authenticity.
Thank you so much. You can find Akudo over at the Gather House, so please feel free. Go join the community. And I will say that I do hope that you find that that you continue to find ways to nourish yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to provide that joy for yourself, because you definitely do it for the rest of us. Because we know that when we're meeting with Akudo, we're like, oh, Akudo, of course.
Yeah. Well, that's why some people say, if I don't respond to you this year, which I never really do anyway, okay. I'm very terrible. Understand.
We will take it.
I'm just resting.
And that is it for this episode of the StormCast. We've been recording at the CEP Entertainment Hub. If you want to know how you can record in spaces like this, I will leave a link in the comment below. It is a free community, so feel free to join. It is all about community. Big shout out to my production partners, Rixel Studios. Thank you so much. Thank you to Canon, who are equipment partners on this as well. And big shout out to Akudo Designs, because they have this production space looking so cute. Isn't it so cute?
Yeah, this is special. Didn't even realize.
Thank you.
All like this. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Had a great time.
All right, guys. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you, lovely. That's great. I appreciate that so much. Bye.